Now that we have downloaded the application, it's now time to fill it out together. This is the application for work permit extension, application to change. It's called application to change condition, extend my stay or remain in Canada as a worker, IMM 5710. Again, this is the application that you must fill out and submit to IRCC to extend your work permit. We are going to go over it together. Before we actually start doing that, I need to let you know that I have already included a link in the bio that you can click on to access this application. If you were unable to download the application from your IRCC account, that's okay. You don't need to be worried about it. I have already included the link for this application in the bio. Feel free to click on the link and then you will have access to this application. Now let's begin filling out this application together. First question, it's asking for our UCI. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my UCI. Then it's asking if I want the service in English or French. I'm going to go ahead and pick English. Then it's asking me what I'm applying for. We are applying to extend our open work permit. And in order to do that, we want to go ahead and check this box right here. Apply for work permit with same employer. I understand that some of you out there might not have an employer. That's okay. You still have to go ahead and pick this option. This is the option for extending open work permit. So if you have an open work permit and you want to extend that, you want to apply to extend that work permit, that open work permit, you want to go ahead and click this option. This is the option to apply to extend your open work permit, option number 1. This right here is the one that you want to click on. Apply for a work permit with the same employer. Again, this option is for people who are applying to extend their open work permit. After you pick that option, you want to go ahead and fill out this section. This section is all about your personal information. It's very easy. It's asking about your name, date of birth, very easy questions, very basic questions. It's all about your personal details. Keep in mind though that you must enter your information in these boxes exactly as it's shown on your passport. So whatever your family name is on your passport or your full name or your name is on your passport, you want to go ahead and enter that here. You want to make sure you enter the information in these boxes exactly as it's shown on your passport. And as you all know, on the passport, everything is in capital letters. So you got to make sure you type everything in capital letters. So first thing first, it's asking for my family name. Again, it must be as it's shown on your passport. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my family name. Ross is my family name. And then it's asking me for my name. Again, it must be as it's shown on my passport. I'm going to go ahead and say my name is Music. Then question number 2 is asking me, have you ever used any other name? I'm going to go ahead and say no. If you have, then you want to go ahead and pick the yes option. And when you pick the yes option, you got to make sure you provide these information. You fill out these 2 boxes. But again, since I have never used any other name, I'm going to go ahead and click no. And as you can see, when I click on the no option, these boxes turn gray, which means I don't have to fill them out. I can just move on to the next question. So next question, it's asking for my gender. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm a female. Then it's asking for my date of birth. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my date of birth. Then it's asking for my place of birth, the city and the country. I'm going to go ahead and say I was born in Istanbul. And I'm going to go ahead and say I was born in Turkey. Let me see if I can. Turkey. Then it's asking about my citizenship. Well, I was born in Turkey and I have a passport from Turkey because I'm a citizen of Turkey. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm a citizen of Turkey. Right there. And then next question, it's asking about my current country of residence. I'm currently living in Canada and my status is a worker. Again, I have a work permit and I am planning to apply to extend my work permit. And currently I have a work permit, so I'm considered a worker. Then then it's asking for the date. These information can be found on your work permit. Just look at your work permit and enter the from and to date that's shown on your work permit. I'm going to go ahead and say from 2024 02 28 to 2025 02 27. Again, these dates can be found on your current work permit. Just look at your current work permit and enter the information here accordingly. And then the next question is, during the past 5 years, have you lived in any other country other than your country of citizenship or your current country of residence for more than 6 months? In other words, it's asking me, during the last 5 years, have I lived in any country other than Canada and Turkey for more than 6 months? The answer is no. So again, make sure you read this question twice if you have problem understanding it. It's asking if during the past 5 years you lived in any country or territory other than your country of citizenship or your current country of residence for more than 6 months. If you have lived in another country for more than 6 months and that country was not the country of your citizenship, or it was in Canada, then you got to go ahead and pick the yes option and fill out these boxes accordingly. And since I haven't, I'm going to go ahead and say no, and then I don't have to fill out these boxes. I can just move on to question 9. So question 9, it's asking about my marital status. I am single, and when I pick single, you can see that these boxes, including this question right here, turn gray, which means I don't have to answer them, and I can just move on to the next section. Next question is asking, have you previously been married or in a common law relationship? The answer is no for me. And when I pick no, these boxes turn gray. If you have, again, you want to make sure you click on yes and you fill out these boxes accordingly. I haven't, so the answer is no. And then it's asking about my mother tongue, my native language. I'm from Turkey, I speak Turkish, and that's my mother tongue. So you want to go ahead and pick your mother tongue here, your native language. I'm going to go ahead and say my native language is Turkish. Then it's asking if I'm able to communicate in English or French. I can speak in English, so I'm going to go ahead and pick English. Next question. Have you taken a test from a designated testing agency to assess your proficiency in English or French? I have. If you haven't, you want to go ahead and click on the no option. But again, I have, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the yes option right here. I did IELTS, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick the yes option here. Now it's asking about the information on my passport. Again, this section is very, very easy. All you have to do is look at your passport and copy all the information on your passport in these boxes. First question, it's asking for my passport number. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my passport number. Then it's asking for the country that my passport was issued at. I'm going to go ahead and say it was issued at Turkey. Then it's asking about the date of issue of my passport. I'm going to go ahead and say my passport was issued in 2019-0101. And then the expiry date on my passport is 2027-0101. Now, question 5 and 6, as you can see, they have been automatically turned gray. And the reason is because question 5 and question 6 only apply to people whose passports have been issued in Taiwan or in Israel. So since I stated that my passport was issued in Turkey in question number 2, that's why question number 5 and question number 6, they turned automatically gray, because these two questions only apply to people whose passports have been issued in Taiwan or Israel. Because our passports haven't been issued in Taiwan and Israel, these questions don't apply to us and they have been turned gray and we don't need to answer them. We can just move on to the next section. So the next section is the national identity document. It's asking if you have a national identity document. I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the no option. If you have, you want to go ahead and click on the yes and fill out these boxes accordingly. But again, I don't, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on the no option. Next question is about United States. It's asking if I'm a lawful permanent resident of United States with a valid green card. I am not, so the answer is no for me. If you are, you want to go ahead and say yes and fill out these boxes, but I'm not. And then next section is about my contact information, it's about my address, phone number, and very basic information. So first thing first, it's asking for my current mailing address. I'm gonna go, if you are living in an apartment, you wanna go ahead and include the apartment number here. If you are not living in an apartment, then you wanna leave that one, leave the apartment number blank and move on, start with the street number. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I live at 47 and then the street name is Victoria Park Avenue. City is Toronto, country Canada, province Ontario, postal code L1L 1L1. And then it's asking if my residential and mailing address are the same. So if residential address is the same as my mailing address, it is. So my mailing address and my home address are the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and pick yes. If your home address and your mailing address are different, you want to go ahead and pick no. And you want to go ahead and include your home address here. But again, my home address is the same as my mailing address. So I'm going to go ahead and pick yes here. Then the next question is about my phone number. I have a phone number that is a Canadian phone number. Then I have to make sure to include the type of my phone number. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a cellular. Then I'm going to include my phone number here. If there's an extension, you want to include it here. If not, you can just leave it blank. If you have an alternative phone number, you can include it here. If not, you can just leave it blank. You can just leave the fax number blank. Question 6 is asking about the email address. Make sure you give them an email address that you regularly check and you have access to. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my email address. Then we can move on to the next section, which is about the dates of entry and exit to Canada. Question 1 is asking date and place of original entry to Canada. So the first time I entered Canada, it was 2017, and it was January 1st. The place was YYZ, Toronto Pearson Airport. Then it's asking what was the original purpose for coming to Canada. I came here on a student visa to study, and then I applied for work permit, and now I'm trying to apply to extend my work permit. So the original purpose for coming to Canada in my case is a study. I came here as a student visa to study on this date. I entered Toronto Pearson Airport on this date with a study permit to study in Canada. Then after I finished my studying, I applied for work permit, and now I'm applying to extend my work permit. And then next question is asking date and place of your most recent entry to Canada. So if you have left Canada after the first time you entered Canada for like many times, you want to make sure that here for the date section, you enter the most recent entry to Canada. So let's say that you left the country, I don't know, a couple of times in 2018, 2019, 2020, and then 2021. So, and then the last time that you entered Canada was like 2023. So you want to make sure you enter the date for your most recent entry. So make sure you include the date for your most recent entry here. I'm going to go ahead and say the date of my most recent entry was 2024 0505. And then again, I entered the place of my most recent entry was again YYZ, Toronto Pearson Airport. And then question 4, if applicable, provide the document number of your most recent visit or study work permit that was issued to you. So on your work permit, there's a document number. You want to go ahead and include that document number here. I'm going to go ahead and include my document number here. Again, this document number can be found on your current work permit. Just look at your current work permit and then you can just type that information here. Then the next section is about details of intended work in Canada. So it's asking what type of work permit are you applying for? We are applying for open work permit. So you want to go ahead and pick this option right here, open work permit. That's the one that you want to pick. Again, we're applying to extend our open work permit. So for this question, you want to go ahead and pick option, the open work permit option. And then question number 2, details of my prospective employer. You can just leave this part blank if you don't have an employer and if you don't know who you want to work for. You can just leave this section blank all the way to question 8. You can just leave them all blank. Question number 2 to question number 7, you can just leave them all blank. You don't have to do question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, 6, and 7. You do not have to do this section. You can just leave it blank, and then you can just move on to question number 8. Have you been issued a certificate under the Provincial Nominee Program? I have not been issued something like that, so I'm going to go ahead and click on no option. And then you can just move on to the next section, which is education. So it's asking, have you had any post-secondary education, including university or college? I have. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the yes option. And then since I answered yes, I have to go ahead and fill out these boxes right here. If you click on no, you'll see that they turn gray. But again, I have, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the yes option. So I have to go ahead and enter the dates that I've been studying. I have to enter the dates that I was a student. I'm going to go ahead and say that from 2017 January to 2021 04 April, I was going to York University. My field or level of study, my field of study, I'm going to go ahead and say it was business. And then the city was Toronto and country was Canada. And then province was Ontario. Again, for this section right here, make sure you give full details of your highest level of post-secondary education. I went to York University from this time to this time, and then it was in Toronto, and then my field of study was business. And just make sure you give full details of your highest level of post-secondary education here. And then we can just move on to the next section, which is employment. So for the employment section, it's asking you to give details of your employment for the past 10 years. And you got to make sure that you include all the, if you've had any government position, you want to make sure to include those ones as well. If you were a police officer, if you were a member of the parliament, or if you were a judge, you want to make sure to include those ones as well. But longer story short, you have to enter the details of your employment for the past 10 years. Make sure to include everything. Make sure to include your employment history for the last 10 years. I'm going to go ahead and say I started working in 2021 05 to 24 02. So the first one right here, this is your current activity, or current occupation. So when you start typing, you got to make sure you start from the most recent one, and then you can go all the way to the oldest one on the next page. So here, if you have this last box is for the oldest position that you've had, previous activity or occupation, previous activity or occupation. And then I'm going to go ahead and say I am currently working. My current occupation is I'm a data analyst at AO Insurance in Toronto. So, and the current country that is Canada. Oops, Canada. Province is Ontario, and that's the job that I have been doing for the last 4 years. If you have any other job, you want to make sure to include them here. And then after you enter those information, you can just move on to the next section, which is background information. So the background information is going to start asking you some questions about your background. Question 1 is, within the past 2 years, have you or a family member of you had tuberculosis of the lungs or been in contact with a person with tuberculosis? No. Do you have any physical or mental disorder that would require social and or health services other than medication during your stay in Canada? No. If your answer to any of these questions is yes, then you must provide an explanation. So if the answer to your question 1A or 1B is yes, you want to make sure to provide a detailed explanation about like the name of the family member, or anything else that you feel IRCC should know. But again, since the answer to these two questions is no for me, I don't have to enter any explanation here. Then question 2 is asking, have you ever remained beyond the validity of your status, attended school without authorization, or worked without authorization in Canada? I haven't, so I'm going to go ahead and pick no. B, have you ever been refused a visa or permit, denied entry, or ordered to leave Canada or any other country or territory? I have not, so I'm going to go ahead and pick no. Have you previously applied to enter or remain in Canada? The answer is yes. So since we said yes to this question, we picked yes for this question, we have to go ahead and provide details in this box right here. So as it's mentioned here, if you answered yes to question 2A, 2B, or 2C, which is this question right here, if you said yes, then you must provide details here. So for the you just have to include an explanation here. You can say I applied for whatever you applied for. In my case was PGWP, and my application was approved on this date. And you want to make sure to include the application number. The application number was this. So you want to include something similar to this. You just have to like provide an explanation first of all what it was, and then it would be best if you could include the date that the application was approved as well as the application number, so that they know what you're talking about. Again, I applied for PGWP, and my application was approved on this date, and then the application number was this. And after you typed your explanation, you can just move on to the next question. This was my explanation. You don't have to type this. You can just go ahead and type your own explanation. So let's say if you applied for something other than PGWP, just make sure you let them know what it was, and then let them know it was approved on what date, and just make sure you give them the application number or the document number. And then after you provide those information, you can just move on to question number 3. So question number 3 is asking me, have you ever committed, been arrested for, or been in charge with or convicted of any criminal offense in any country? The answer is no. I have never been committed or charged or arrested or convicted of any criminal offenses in any country. So I'm going to pick no, and then I don't have to provide explanation. And then I'm going to move on to the next question, which is question number 4. Question number 4 is asking, did you serve in any military, civil defense unit, or serve in a security organization or police force? I have not, so I'm going to go ahead and pick no. If you have, you want to go ahead and click yes and provide, again, explanation. I haven't, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the no option, and I don't have to explain anything. Question 5. Are you or have you ever been a member or associated with any political party or other group or organization which has engaged in or advocated violence as means to achieving a political or religious objective, or which has been associated with criminal activity at any time? No, I haven't, so the answer is a no. Question 6, have you ever witnessed or participated in the ill treatment of prisoners or civilians? No, so I'm going to go ahead and pick no. And then next section, it's asking for my signature. The question is, do you consent to be contacted by IRCC? I'm going to go ahead in the future. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I have no problem to be contacted by IRCC, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the yes option. And then after I'm done picking the option that works for me, which again was a yes for me, I'm going to go ahead and sign my application. In order to sign my application, I'm going to go ahead and just type my name, my full legal name as it's shown on my passport. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and sign it this way. And then I have to date my application. I'm going to say, this is the date. And then here it is. I signed it, I dated it, and now I can just move down and I can just go ahead and click on the validate button. So validation completed successfully. If you have answered all the questions and if you haven't missed anything, then you will get this message that shows validation completed successfully. And then before I press OK, you need to know that since we're applying online, this is the one that's going to apply to us. You can just ignore this second paragraph. This doesn't apply to us. This is only if you're applying on paper. Just ignore the second paragraph. Again, we're applying online. So if you're applying online, you do not need to sign your application form by hand. You will be asked to provide an electronic signature once you're ready to transmit your document to CIC. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And then you can see that I get a page full of barcodes. This is what we want. This is what we want to see. This page is very important. Make sure you go ahead and save your application, save your completed application on your computer, because the next step is for you to upload this completed application with these barcodes on your IRCC account. And again, as I mentioned before, if you miss filling out some of the section in this application, you will not be able to see this barcode page. You will get an error, and then it will let you know what you have missed and what you haven't answered, and then you have to make sure you fix that. Otherwise, it will not show you these barcode page, and it will not let you validate your application. In our case, we answered all the questions and we didn't miss anything. So when I clicked on validate, I got the message that it was validated successfully, and I was able to get this barcode page that I was looking for. And now what I should do, and what you also must do, is to go ahead and save this application, and then I'll show you where you can, and then go ahead and upload it on your IRCC account. I'm going to go ahead and save this application first.